Okay, so today we're here with Teresa Tsosie from Tuba City, Arizona. Teresa, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, my name is Teresa Rojo. I'm from Tuba City, Arizona. It's in the Navajo Nation, and I am from the Gallup Diocese. I am the director of religious education here at my parish at St. Jude Catholic Church. I used to be a catechist, and then I got asked to do the DRE job here after the previous one had moved by Sister Mary Freight, and then she left, and so now I'm secretary, DRE assistant to Father J, who is our pastor here at St. Jude Parish.
Okay, so today's video, what I really want to focus on is intersectionality. And that's a term that we hear a lot on social media and in culture. You hear a lot about, being a part of two different groups. And the intersectionality we want to talk about today is being a Native person and being Catholic at the same time. So being a person from the Navajo Nation, my first set of questions for you is, between DNA spirituality and the Catholic faith, in your experience, how do these two interact with each other? And secondly, have you ever found there to be a disagreement between the two of them?
Yeah, growing up, I think, especially because I am Navajo, I'm Dene, and Mexican. My mom's Mexican and my dad's Navajo. This was a question I was always asked, and you never really think about it until I think you're older and you're able to understand. And for me, that question arose again when I was like in my early 20s, when Loyola Marymount University, Dr. Daniel Christopher Smith, he had a class, I forget, a theology class, I don't remember what specifically, but they would come every other summer, and Sister Mary Rogerson, then she was the pastoral assistant to Father Menard at the time, and she was the one responsible for getting all the Native American Catholics in our church, but specifically young adults, I guess you would say, and so me and my sister and a few other youth members, we would talk to the students, and that was the main question: how can you be Native and Catholic? And for me, I never really had any disagreements. I know another gentleman did, I think, being bullied, but in my experience, I had friends who were of other faiths as well, and we had a mutual understanding of each other's faith. I had a friend who was Mormon. She went to seminary every morning. And then I had another friend who was Baptist services with her mom every now and then. And then I had friends who were traditional, who I believe her father and her brother participated in winter ceremony dances. And so for me, how they interact with each other, how the two interact with each other, our Catholic faith, and just I think with being Native American, Creator God. We pray to the Creator. My sister, when she's with her other friends who are farmers, they're Hopi, and sometimes they'll ask her about faith, and she'll Creator, and then they'll understand that. And for me, I see it as we pray to one God, the Creator, and we every morning with Dene faith, you're supposed to wake up before the sun. You run to the east and you have your corn pollen and you pray, and you're praying to the Creator. And for me, it's kind of like how with being Catholic, you pray. We pray every morning. You do your morning prayers. If for some, like my grandmother, my mom's mom, she every day she did her rosary before she started anything. And so I think if you really, really look at it, not really having to look or dig deep, we're similar, and it shouldn't be a push or pull or anything like that. And for me, I think when back to the story of the younger gentleman who was bullied because he did have both faiths, you know, he was Navajo and he was Catholic. Also, too, you have to be strong within yourself, I think, to just say, this is who I am, this is my faith. And I feel some people can see whether if you're weak in that area, not weak, but you know, you lack understanding of it, just don't want to participate in it, if that makes sense. Because I know one of the students had come up to my sister and said, you know, you can tell this is something you believe in, you're strong in this faith, and you can see it and you can hear it. For me, I think only disagreement I've ever had, I think, with anyone was just, why are you Catholic? And I've never really had that question brought up to me growing up, but I'm Catholic because my mom's Catholic, and this is what we're gonna do, type of thing. And it's, I love it. I mean, talk all the time, but
I think a lot of people, especially Native people, when they want to remain traditional, when they want to remain connected to their heritage, to their upbringing, you know, it's. I think it's really cool that you said there was never any push or pull, but that doesn't mean that the push or pull isn't out there. I think some people do struggle with that. And I think, you know, you had kind of touched on this, but it really comes down to your perspective. So, you know, we have the road that we're on, our journey, our faith journey, you might say. And this road that we're on is the road that leads us to God. Now, some people, you know, I've heard it expressed, they feel like they're walking two roads. These roads are side by side, but they're still two roads. Do you feel that you're making a journey with two roads, or do you feel in your own spiritual life that you found a way that your native spirituality, your Dene spirituality, and your Catholic faith have come together and it's kind of like its own expression? How would you interpret that for our viewers?
I wasn't really growing up being Catholic. It was just, I followed what my mom had told us to do.
Right.
Every Sunday, we had to do, you know, religious ed, CCD. I remember specifically in high school, once I turned sophomore, I was being confirmed. I didn't know I had a choice. In confirmation class, I asked why someone's brother wasn't with us, and he said, "Oh, he's not wanting to." And I thought, what? You have a choice? I didn't know you had a choice. I always remember this, and I say this to the youth group that we have every year. You know, I went home and I told my mom, and I go, she's like, you don't have a choice. You're doing this. And so for me, growing up, it was always just you're Catholic. I'm Catholic, and I'm gonna follow this. And it wasn't until I think in my early 20s, I knew that I wanted to keep my faith. I wanted to keep my faith. I wanted to be stronger in faith. And when I got asked, and like I said, for me, it wasn't anything a push or pull, nothing like that. I think also too, because I had such a great I had great friends. I had a great circle that didn't judge me, that didn't make it difficult for me to make it two roads. And also to my parents, I have to really, really give credit to my parents, especially my dad. My dad, who was Navajo, because he could have been told my mom, no, they're not gonna, my daughters are not gonna be Catholic. We're not gonna follow this. They're not gonna follow this. They're gonna do what we do. You know, he didn't grow up very traditional, but he did grow up in a Christian type home. And he could have said this, we could have gone a different way. And so, like I said, I didn't really get stronger in my faith and knew this is something I wanted until I was in my 20s. And for me, I think it was never roads, but I can see how people other, like our viewers, you know, who have such a difficulty on emerging the two, like a fork in the road, I guess. And I think now with society, or just now with such the social media has such an influence now, it's like either you're this way or you're that way. You're going to be strictly native, or you're going to be colonized. I guess that's another word I can think of how to put it.
You touched on something there, and you used the terminology native or colonized. And I think that's appropriate because especially among our own people, it's very often associated with the colonizers. You know, the Catholic faith was brought over. It was not a faith that the native people were asking for. It was kind of brought to them. In some situations, history reveals that Catholicism was forced onto the population. You know, they were assimilated. You know, they had to begin dressing a certain way. They had to begin speaking English, which was foreign to them. And a lot of their culture and their traditions were suppressed. And so that trauma, you know, people like to say, oh, well, that was, you know, hundreds and hundreds of years ago. Boarding schools and different things, these existed into the 1900s. These are not so far back. And I think a lot of our elders still carry that weight. They still carry that trauma of that time period. And if you look on social media, if you were to get on Twitter and search, you know, native Twitter, it's a very unkind place for Christianity. It's very, you know, it's very hostile, I guess you could say. So there's definitely a temptation for Native people, if you are Catholic, if you are any denomination of Christianity, to kind of keep that silent. Maybe that's part of yourself that you don't bring up so much.
When someone posts something, I try to educate them, depending on who it is, on the person, because, you know, we all have people in our lives, no matter what you say to them, present them, they're just stuck in their ways. And I feel like sometimes with social media, it's easy to hide behind a screen, and you can't confront the person. And it's easy to be, like I said, behind a screen, see what you want without the consequences.
Right. What would you say if someone came to you for advice and they were a Native person, maybe who was raised Catholic, but they really are struggling staying Catholic, like maybe they're struggling embracing the Catholic faith, based on what they've learned about its history and how it came to America. As a Catholic, as someone who you say in your early 20s, you found a reason to stay. You found a reason to stay connected. What would you say to someone like that who's struggling?
It's going to be hard. And have to, you know, with me, it took the death of my grandmother. my mom's mom. And day she did the rosary. Every day she did the rosary before she went on with her daily chore. And so for me, with her faith, when she passed away, that was missing. And that's what drew me back to the church, is because they connected with her. And so every time I do pray the rosary, I think of her. But for someone who is struggling, who is just thinking about, I think, of the movie is it Indian Horse? It came out a couple years ago, and it brought up everything, the boarding schools, the sexual abuse within the boarding schools, alcoholism. Because of that, you have addiction, addicted because you remember the memory of that. And I remember specifically my friend after that movie asking me, how do I feel? And I told her, I said, because she knew, she's my best friend, and I just remember thinking, like, it hurts, but I always think of it as it's the person doing it, not the church, or it's not Jesus himself doing that. Because when you really think about it, the way Jesus, his message, that's not his message. And so for me, trying to tell someone that they're struggling, yes, pray about it, but you have to think about when people are doing these, when they were doing these type of things, it wasn't because of Jesus. It was because of their own selfish actions. And yes, there are repercussions from that. We have addiction, we have alcoholism, we have the continuation of molestation within our families because of what happened. But you have to think of it as the person, not Jesus's message. And for me, what I would tell someone is my own struggle. I would tell them my own struggle. Yes, it's unfortunate that I took my faith serious until someone passed away. But when you think about it, it takes something, or you hit your bottom, for you to understand, like, this is what you want to do. I got into really getting into a member of the Kateri circle. I started saying her prayer every day, not every day, every Sunday after communion. And now with Black Elk, when we're, I say that prayer along with the Kateri prayer. And I think for someone who's struggling, just find something you can stick to. Like for me, for Lent, every year I try to say a rosary every day, but that's hard. I mean, it shouldn't be hard, but it is hard. And because there's always something distracting me from doing that. And so for me to tell someone else who is struggling, I would tell them, research and do what you can do. You can add to your routine. And for me, like every day, or every mass, I say my Kateri prayer, I say my Black Elk prayer. And recently I've added Blessed Frederick Ozanam. They're trying to get him to become a saint too. And I'm part of St. Vincent de Paul. And I think for anyone who's struggling, just find a prayer, simple prayer that you can add when you go to mass, or listen to the rosary. I think as long as you find something that you can own, I think that would help. Because that's what helped. I mean, that's what helped me. For me, once my grandmother died, my nonna died, I thought of it as, okay, now I have to go to church, or I pray the rosary just to feel closer to her. She did that every day, and she prayed the rosary every day. So for me, for someone who's struggling, just find something that that you can add to your routine. It doesn't have to be a rosary. You could say a decade or say Hail Mary. But I would say to that person who's struggling, find something that you can just say. And I think once you do that, I think that's how it snowballs. You know, it
Right.
just keeps going after that.
And it's funny, it's not, you mentioned that your grandmother and her passing was sort of like the spark that lit your faith again. And when you were saying that, I was thinking in my mind that that's probably the most native answer you could give, because how funny is it that you're connected to your Catholic faith because of your elder, right?
Yes,
Of
no,
those who came before us.
exactly, no.
And it's for those very same reasons that many Native people are going back to traditional ways, right? They,
Mhm.
through just whatever life experiences, they feel somewhat disconnected from their grandparents or their great grandparents and so forth. And going back to the traditional ways is a way for them to connect. It's a way for them to feel that closeness again. And then here you are, and you remember your grandmother praying her rosary, and you remember how dedicated she was, and now you're able to pray alongside her once again.
Yeah,
When you
no,
take up your prayers, y'all are together again,
yes.
and so for all of the reasons we might have to maybe set Catholicism or set our faith in Jesus aside, um, it's in these ways. It's when our faith stops being like an idea and
Hmm.
becomes a relationship. It becomes
Yeah,
about relationship, that it really means something to us.
it becomes a
Um,
part of you, I think.
right,
And
right,
that's something that is a part of you. And I mean, I think of my mom and her mother, and that's a big part of them
yeah,
being Catholic, them being religious. And I hope when I pass, I hope that something, I don't have any children, but if I do, I hope that my children or my nephew thinks of about me. I
yeah.
was a strong, that my faith was strong. With my grandmother, her faith was so strong.
Yeah.
And my mom's faith is so strong.
Well, we want to thank Teresa for joining us today. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to speak with our viewers, to give them some insight as to what it's like and what the challenges are with being both a Catholic and Native person. I think this is a topic that a lot of people need to hear, and I think a lot of people will benefit a lot from what we've talked about today. So thank you.
Thank you. No, I was very excited for this, and thank you for asking me. It's something I work with the United Catholic Bishops for a another project, and I always tell them, I feel our Native American voice isn't heard within the Catholic faith, and it should be heard. Especially considering the history. And any chance I get within any meeting that I have with them, I let them know. So just know that I let USCCB know that we need to be heard. So thank you again for asking me.
Thank you so much.
And also too, I forgot I needed to introduce myself in Navajo. I did not do that. This is going to be shown, and I know if there are Navajo viewers, they will get upset with me. So I'm going to introduce myself in Navajo. Yat Teresa Rojo Tsosie Nishia, Nakai Nishle, the Bethlehem Bashashin, Nakai Deshiche, Toshini Deshanoa. And I'm from Tuba City. So need to get that out of the way before I have people texting me. And traditionally, that's what we do first, but I was so excited for this, it just slipped my mind.
Well, thank you again. And
Thank you.
thank you for being a part of this, this video series.